everybody, I'm Kimberly Turner from cookingwithkimberly.com, and today I'm going to show you a really great bread-based stuffing for poultry. I'm making turkey tonight. We're doing a roasted Napa Jack's holiday turkey. Make sure you check out that recipe, but this is just the stuffing for inside. Now it's going to be a bread-based stuffing. You could also do quinoa or you can do rice. There's all kinds of ideas with different kinds of bread. I'm actually using just a white bread that I got at my local Harvest Barn Country Markets. It's a beautiful, nice, fresh loaf of bread. So I'm going to use some vegetables, and I'm also going to put some cranberries chopped in there just for a little added kick of zing, okay? I'm going to use carrots, celery, and mushrooms. If you feel like adding onions or garlic, please feel free. We have some people in the house that it doesn't go well with their tummy. They don't like onion and garlic, so we're not going to put it in. You don't need it, okay? So I'm going to quickly on my stovetop, I have some pork fat. Now you can use butter, you can use olive oil, you could use whatever kind of grease you want. I have about a tablespoon in here, heating in a large frying pan, and I'm just going to lightly saute up these vegetables to soften them a bit before we get that into the stuffing, okay? Now I do have about a cup of rice that I'm using in my bread stuffing as well, just because that's what I have. You don't have to, you can completely omit it if you like. So I'm going to use a little bit of celery. I'm just going to finely slice that. I'm going to use about half a cup or so. Now I'm going to use carrot, and you don't have to trim off the peel if you don't want to, unless it looks ugly and you don't want it. I'm going to leave the peel on because it's going in the stuffing. No one's even going to notice it, okay? So I'm just going to finely chop up some carrot. It'll probably end up being about a half a cup as well. I'm just eyeballing. So now I'm going to finely mince this up a little bit better. I don't want you to get a whole big giant piece of carrot. I want you to get a mixture of all these beautiful flavors that are going in this stuffing. That's the point to me. Plus, the little pieces of orange flecks look so nice in that stuffing. Now, when you're roasting a turkey, or any kind of bird for that matter, you need to get the stuffing organized and prepared before you put that thing in the oven, obviously, because you want it in the cavity. I like doing it that way the best because I believe it soaks up a lot of nice flavor. But you need to have the stuffing ready and already stuffed before you start seasoning the outside of your bird, or it's all gonna fall off and it's all kind of for naught. So get that stuffing ready. That's the first thing you have to do when you're starting a roast poultry or bird feast. Into my frying pan goes my carrots. Now I'm also going to be using mushrooms in my gravy, and they're going to be nice sliced. So I'm going to do the same thing with my mushrooms that I just did with my carrot. I'm going to use a little bit more in volume so it will look. In mushrooms right now, I really like mushrooms, and I think it goes really, really nicely with poultry and the holidays. But when you saute these guys up, they're going to lose a lot of water and reduce down in volume. So you can use a little bit more and still be all right. It's going to look like way more than the carrots and the celery right now. So just roughly slice and then get a nice little mince going on. I like to put the mushrooms in last because they are the softest and they don't need that much time. So stir those veggies around, let them sweat a little bit. Now I've brined my turkey today, so it's going to be on the saltier side. I don't have to add much salt to other things. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to this, but not as much as you maybe usually would. I'm going to freshly crack some pepper into my pan. Just a little bit of salt and some chili flakes. Okay, those are starting to soften. I'm going to add my mushrooms. If you need to add a little bit more oil or butter to this at this point, go ahead, because mushrooms really soak that up. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of cranberry, just like a little handful, okay? And I'm just going to rinse them off in cold water. Not only is it going to add a little bit of zing and tang, it's going to add a little bit of color, and it's just perfect for the holidays. So just mince those up the same way, cut them up slightly in these little bits. Dried fruit is always a nice addition to stuffing, but today we're using these fresh cranberries into my pan. So in the meantime, I'm going to just dice up my bread. This is fresh bread, so I'm going to toast it up slightly. I have my oven on preheating about 250 degrees. You could do it on 300-ish. And just let this stuff crisp up a little bit so it's a little bit drier, because that turkey is going to be nice and moist and it's going to soften up this bread nicely. You don't want a clumpy mess. You want it to retain its integrity. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just kind of tearing it into pieces. Now you can buy that bread for stuffing that's already seasoned with herbs, etc. But you don't need to do that. You can use any kind of bread you like. You could even use rye bread or cornbread. So I'm stuffing a 10.5-pound turkey today, but make as much stuffing as you need for the type of bird you're using. I mean, if you're using a giant bird, then you need to use at least a whole loaf of bread, okay? I'm using about a half a loaf of bread, some rice, and a bunch of veggies. Onto a cookie sheet. Just spread it out a little bit, and we're gonna dry it out just slightly in the oven, okay? While I'm waiting for my vegetables. Okay, I'm out to my garden to go get some fresh herbs. I'm gonna go get some savory, some parsley, and maybe some chives. Now feel free to use what you want. Actually, I just grabbed some parsley and some savory today. Savory is an essential herb for my mom. She won't find it to be Thanksgiving without the savory. So we have some nice savory and some fresh parsley, flat leaf Italian parsley. Use whatever kind you like. And I'm just gonna finely mince that up, and that's gonna go straight into my stuffing. Now make sure your bird is dried off on the outside so it's ready to be prepared after you stuff it. Get yourself a bowl you can mix everything in. And I'm just going to take the savory off of the stems. I'm gonna actually mince it up even finer. You don't need a lot of savory, just a little bit. It goes a long way. Save those stalks, however, for soups and stews. Put them in a resealable bag in the freezer. All right, my veggies have sweated out nicely. They're nice and tender, and my mushrooms have really reduced in volume. That's great. So into the bowl they go. Let it cool a little bit. And I'm just waiting for my bread. Okay, so my bread has been lightly toasted. It's ready to go, and I'm going to combine it in with the rest of my vegetables that I already have prepared and the spices. And I'm going to toss these guys up. The vegetables and the rice are going to moisten up the bread slightly. You just don't want it to be mushy in there. Also, the juices from the turkey are going to flow, and it's going to get all absorbed into this stuffing. It's going to be so, so delicious. Now, I like to add some gumbo filet. My mom has done that forever, and I also like that flavor because I live down south in Louisiana especially, and they use gumbo filet a lot. Now, this is ground sassafras. So tasty. If you can't find it, you can order it online. Just look it up. It's hard to find sometimes. We can't get it here in my location. I have to either get it when I go down south or have a friend send it to me or order it online. And I'm gonna mix that through. If you want to add some poultry seasoning, go right ahead. Okay, so there you have it. There's how you make herbed bread stuffing with vegetables and cranberries. And again, you know, your imagination is what's limiting you. Just use whatever kind of veggies you have or you enjoy, chop them up finely, get them nice and tender a little bit, add some fruit. You could add dried fruit, you could add apricots or raisins or dried cranberries or haskap berries, anything that you please, all right? So I'm gonna stuff my bird with this. You can use butter if you like. I'm using the pork fat. You can use bacon fat, chicken fat, whatever kind of fat you have. I'm using this today because that's what I have, and it's gonna be extra flavorful. So I'm gonna put a little bit in the cavity, just for some flavor for that stuffing I have prepared. And I'm going to massage this into the skin of my turkey, everywhere. You want it on every part. I freshly ground some pepper. You want it to be finely ground so that it actually sticks to the skin. If you have it cracked, it won't stick very well, okay? I don't need salt because we've used a very salty brine. We don't really need it. So I'm going to put a little bit inside the cavity. Use one hand to hold the turkey and one hand to touch everything else, okay? Don't contaminate things. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of poultry seasoning. And I'm also going to use some of this Napa Jack's chicken and fish rub that we used in the brine, okay? Just sprinkle that on. Put some of that in the cavity as well. Sprinkle, sprinkle. I'm going to get the bottom side more so than the top side because this has other spices in that may tend to burn on the other side more. All right, so that's nice and seasoned. And now I'm going to stuff the bird because when it is breast side up is the best access you have to the cavity, okay, as you can see right here. So I'm going to stuff it. The least amount of movement and messing with it that you can do right now, the better, because it's going to leave those seasonings on as you put them on there. So let's get whatever stuffing that you've made, let's get that in there. Pack it nicely. I like to prepare this on a cookie sheet before I put it into the roaster, because there tends to be things that fall off and things like that, and you don't want that stuck in the bottom of your roaster while your turkey's roasting, because it tends to burn and then it's going to wreck your gravy. You want nice drippings. Okay, so seeing that I have an especially large cavity today to cover up, I usually would put an apple in there, but today I'm going to use a grapefruit. If you have a large orange, you can do the same thing, because this Napa Jacks has some nice citrus flavor in it already, so we're going to stick with that, and this is also going to help me with that. If you've never used citrus to do this, it's also a very nice flavor, and you can actually eat it after too. It's quite good. So I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm just going to put that right there to shut it down, okay? I'm gonna use a skewer to skewer this shut. You have the tail end here. You can see I have the tail right here, and that's just going to get skewered into my grapefruit. And that's how we're gonna roll with it. So my skewer goes straight into the grapefruit through the tail, and I'm going to just remove that skewer, keep that meat nice and warm while you're transferring everything. Get yourself your serving bowl for your dressing, stuffing, and I'm just going to scoop that stuffing out.